Why most kids struggle to read, and no one tells parents this. The silent crisis. Most parents don't wake up thinking, my child is going to struggle to read. In fact, many parents assume that if they send their child to school, reading will simply happen. They trust that trained teachers, colorful classrooms, libraries, and reading programs will naturally produce strong readers. But here is a reality that very few people say out loud. Most children in North America are not becoming strong readers. And what is even more concerning is this. Many parents don't even realize it until their child is already years behind. Right now, millions of children are sitting in classrooms across Canada and the United States, staring at words on a page that feel like a foreign language. They look calm on the outside, but inside they are confused, overwhelmed, embarrassed, or anxious. And instead of hearing the truth about why this is happening, parents are often told things like, they'll catch up. Every child learns at their own pace. They're just not ready yet. Boys develop slower than girls. Maybe they just don't like reading. These phrases sound comforting, but they can be deeply misleading. Because for many children, the issue is not readiness, interest, or maturity. The issue is instruction. Today, I want to walk you through the hidden reasons most children struggle to read, reasons that schools rarely explain clearly to parents, and show you what actually works. I will also explain how we teach reading at Tazamach Homeschooling Academy, why our approach is different, and why it produces confident, capable readers instead of frustrated guessers. This is not about blaming teachers. Many teachers care deeply about children and work extremely hard. This is about understanding a system that has, for decades, failed to teach reading in the most effective way. The big lie about reading here is the first uncomfortable truth. Reading is not natural. Children do not learn to read the same way they learn to talk, walk, or recognize faces. Talking develops naturally through exposure to spoken language. A child does not need formal lessons to learn to speak their mother tongue. Reading is different. Reading is an invented skill that must be explicitly taught. Humans did not evolve to read. Writing systems were created only a few thousand years ago. A blink of an eye in human history. Our brains were never biologically designed for reading, so we have to build that ability through instruction. Yet in many schools, reading is treated as if it should just emerge. Children are surrounded by books, posters, and labels on classroom walls. They are read to daily. They are encouraged to love stories. All of that is good, but it is not enough. Loving books does not teach a child how to decode words. Many traditional school reading approaches assume that if children are exposed to enough text, they will naturally figure out how reading works. This is one of the biggest misconceptions in education. Reading requires 5 essential components: phonemic awareness, the ability to hear and manipulate sounds in spoken words; phonics, understanding the relationship between letters and sounds; decoding, using letter sounds to read words; fluency, reading smoothly and accurately; comprehension, understanding what is read. If any one of these is weak, reading suffers. But in many classrooms, phonemic awareness and systematic phonics are either lightly taught or inconsistently taught. Instead, children are often encouraged to figure it out through context, pictures, or memory. That is where the trouble begins. How many kids are actually taught to read? Let's talk honestly about what reading instruction often looks like in real classrooms. A typical kindergarten or grade 1 classroom might have reading centers, guided reading groups, and leveled books. A teacher might say things like, "Look at the picture. What do you think the word is? Check the first letter. Does it make sense?" Try to use context clues. This method is commonly associated with approaches like balanced literacy, whole language. The 3 cueing system on paper, these methods claim to develop critical thinking and meaning-based reading. In reality, they often train children to guess instead of truly read. For example, imagine a child sees this sentence in a leveled book. The cat sat on the mat. If the child does not know how to decode words, they might look at the picture of a cat and say, "The kitty is sitting on the rug." The teacher might praise them. "Good reading," but the child did not actually read the words. They used a picture to guess the meaning. This creates what educators call fake reading. A child may appear to be reading fluently in early grades, but they are relying on memorization, pictures, or context instead of letter sound knowledge. This works temporarily. But by grade 2 or grade 3, the books become more complex. Pictures are fewer, sentences are longer, vocabulary expands. Suddenly, the guessing strategy collapses. That is when parents start hearing, "Your child is below grade level. They are struggling with reading. They may need intervention. We might test them for dyslexia." But the real problem is often not the child. It is the method that was used to teach them. What really happens in the brain when children read, to understand why many children struggle, we need to understand how reading actually works in the brain. When a skilled reader looks at a word, their brain does something incredibly fast and complex. First, their eyes see the letters on the page. Then, their brain automatically connects those letters to sounds. Next, those sounds are blended together to form a word. Finally, the brain retrieves the meaning of that word from memory. This entire process happens in milliseconds, but for a struggling reader, one or more of these steps break down. Many children have never developed strong letter-sound connections. They may recognize letters, but they cannot quickly and automatically connect them to sounds. Other children can say letter sounds in isolation, but they have trouble blending them together smoothly to form words. When decoding is slow and effortful, comprehension suffers. Imagine trying to understand a story while struggling to sound out almost every word. By the time you reach the end of a sentence, you have forgotten the beginning. That is what many children experience every day. At HIspanic Homeschooling Academy, we focus heavily on building strong decoding skills from the very beginning. We do not rush children into reading complex books before their brains are ready. We teach reading in a structured, systematic way that aligns with how the brain actually learns. Why children are rushed too soon. Another major reason many children struggle to read is that they are pushed too quickly. There is enormous pressure in education to have children reading early. Schools often want kindergartners reading short books by the end of the year. Parents post proudly about their 4-year-old reading, but reading too early without a solid foundation can actually be harmful. Many children are moved into leveled readers before they have fully mastered. Letter sounds. Blending word patterns, sight words, through decoding instead of building strong readers, this creates anxious readers. A child who is pushed beyond their readiness may start to associate reading with stress instead of joy. They may begin to think, "I'm not good at this. Everyone else is better than me." Reading is hard. Once a child internalizes that belief, it can take years to undo. At HIspanic Homeschooling Academy, we do the opposite. We slow down to go fast. We ensure mastery before moving on. We celebrate progress, not speed. The real reason many children struggle here is the core truth. Most children who struggle to read are not struggling because they lack intelligence. They are struggling because they were never taught properly. They may have been exposed to books, but they were not given a solid, systematic reading foundation. Many children were never taught how letters represent sounds, how to blend sounds together, how to break words apart, how to recognize patterns in words. Instead, they were encouraged to guess. Guessing is not reading. At HIspanic Homeschooling Academy, we refuse to let children guess their way through books. We teach them to read with confidence and clarity. What effective reading instruction looks like. So what actually works? Research from cognitive science and literacy experts is very clear. Effective reading instruction includes explicit phonics. Instruction: children must be directly taught letter-sound relationships in a logical sequence. Daily practice. Reading skills improve through consistent, short, focused practice. Decodable books. Instead of random storybooks, children should first read books that align with the phonics they have learned. Repetition and review skills should be revisited regularly to build fluency. Positive learning environment: children should feel safe, supported, and encouraged, never shamed for mistakes. At Tazamach Homeschooling Academy, our reading program is built around these principles. We use carefully designed decodable readers. We track progress through mastery checklists. We adjust instruction based on each child's needs. And most importantly, we nurture a love of learning alongside strong academic skills. Signs: your child may not have been taught properly. If you are a parent watching this, you might be wondering, how do I know if my child was taught correctly? Here are common signs of weak reading instruction. Your child relies heavily on pictures instead of words. They skip small words like the, and, or is. They struggle to sound out simple words. They memorize books instead of actually reading them. They get frustrated quickly when reading aloud. None of these mean your child is incapable. They simply mean your child needs better instruction. Why parents are often left in the dark. Many parents assume schools are fully transparent about how reading is taught. Unfortunately, that is not always the case. Some schools avoid clearly explaining their reading methods because they fear parent criticism. They are following outdated programs. They are pressured to show quick results. As a result, parents are left confused when their child struggles. At Tazamach Homeschooling Academy, we believe parents deserve full clarity. We explain exactly how we teach reading, why we use our methods, and how we measure progress. We see parents as partners, not outsiders. What parents can do. Starting today. If your child is struggling with reading, here are practical steps you can take. Stop blaming your child. Struggles are not a character flaw. Ask questions about their instruction. Find out how they are being taught to read. Prioritize phonics over guessing. Encourage your child to sound out words. Read aloud daily. Hearing fluent reading builds vocabulary and comprehension. Celebrate small wins. Progress builds confidence. If you want structured, expert guidance, that is exactly what Tazamach Homeschooling Academy provides. Why Tazamach Homeschooling Academy does reading differently. At Tazamach Homeschooling Academy, reading is not treated as a race. We build readers carefully, step by step. Our approach includes systematic phonics, instruction, individualized pacing, regular assessments, decodable readers aligned with instruction, supportive teaching that builds confidence. We do not push children into reading before they are ready. We do not allow guessing to replace real skill. We do not shame mistakes. We create strong, independent readers. Final message to parents. If your child struggles to read, remember this. Your child is not broken. Your child is not lazy. Your child is not incapable. They simply need the right instruction. With patience, structure, and the right approach, reading struggles can be overcome. If this message resonated with you, consider exploring Tazamach Homeschooling Academy, a place where children are truly taught, supported, and empowered.